All right, hey rookies, how we doing today? Hey, my free picks went 1 and 2, but overall, my unit picks were 6, 4, and 1, feeling quite a bit better after that week. And I'm seeing things a bit clearer on my picks. Important to pick money line picks along with ATS and over under picks. I can't overemphasize that enough. Sometimes, Green Bay is going to win, or a certain team's going to win, but you don't know if they're going to cover or not. Take that money line pick and it'll pay. Jeff, how did week 4 treat you?
Well, it went pretty well. So my free picks were 2-1. Overall, I went 4-3-2, but it was one of those weeks where it kind of reminds me of the importance of shopping the point spreads, because when I made the video Thursday, I had thought I was going to take Buffalo and Baltimore, Minnesota, New Orleans at 3-point spread. I found them at a 2.5-point spread later. So I actually end up winning both of the games that I said that, that my official pick was a tie. So it always is just important to keep an eye on the line as they move. If they're moving in an advantageous way, go ahead and jump on them.
Yeah, I think that's real important. That's a great point, Jeff. We give our trends, but if that line is 3 and we're favoring a team for 3 like the Bills, and it drops to 2.5, take it at 2.5 if you can get it, because it's gonna pay you money on the backside. Hey, my key takeaways from week 4 is, well, the Falcons continue to impress. This is a team I thought might not win any games. They're 4-0 against ATS. And they were open. Their offensive line just played amazingly. Hats off to those guys, opening up multiple holes. I think they had 5 or 6 rushers get over 50 yards, something crazy like that. Don't count me on the stats, but they just played their butts off. And they covered. Hey, look, pressure defense is key to winning the NFL. I think we're seeing better defenses. Now, the points went up overall this week, but the defenses are just getting after it. And you saw that with Dallas and the 49ers, crushing my dreams of going 2-1 on my free picks. Back in the day, teams could get by and play players with injuries. And I think what we learned this week is you can't do that. And the league's going to watch. So with that, I don't like teams that have to rely on their quarterbacks to rush to get points. I'm seeing quarterbacks, the injuries are starting to mount up this week. You saw them when the NFL sent out their injury report, and we can talk about a few of those this week. So I'm going to fade teams that their quarterback has to run the ball significantly to get them points. Because if that guy goes down, then that team's pretty much not going to be there for the rest of the year. I feel like there's like a risk reward calculator here, but I'm not sure what it is. But there's got to be an algo out there for this. It doesn't mean the quarterbacks can't run some in spots, but you saw Tyrod Taylor finish that run, and he just got knocked out of the game. And I think these quarterbacks, I know they want to be tough guys. I know they want to make great plays, but they need to get out of bounds. They need to get down. They're the most important player on the team, and if you lose them, you're going to lose as an organization. Jeff, what were your week 4 takeaways?
Well, so I'd mentioned the 2 ties that with the point spread change of just half a point actually ended up winning for me. Well, hypothetically, if could bet in Texas, but it's really odd to have those 2 things happen in the same week, because overall through the first 4 weeks of the season, 89% of the time, the team that wins the game has also covered the spread. So really the spread has only come into play 10% of the games that have been played so far. And then to have 2 of them that actually ended up helping me win points or bets last week was pretty odd. And then the other piece of that, when I was doing some research, is that we have some pretty big point spreads this week. We've got a 14 point, a couple of 9 points. even when someone is favored by over 53% of the time, they're going to go ahead and cover that spread. So if you picked huge favorites and nothing but, you would still come out ahead on the overall bets by winning 53% of your bets.
Yeah, that's a great stat, Jeff. You know, I thought here's the stats that jumped out at me. The total over under for the week that Vegas put up on, you know, prior to Thursday was 702 points, 44 per team. But the total scored last week was 780, basically 48 per game. However, only 8 out of 8 covered the over under for the total. So Vegas is getting it about right. And so you got to pick winners on the over unders if you want to play those, those over unders. And I see week 5 being somewhat a little bit different. I see those points going up on the Vegas side, and I think scoring points are going to be coming back down. I've seen a lot of offensive players, you know, on the injury list, and you know, we're in week 5 now, and things are starting to hurt. You know, it's like anything, but those players are. I feel like the points are coming down this week. But hey, let's get kicked off here, rookies. We kick off Sunday, week 5, with the Giants facing off against the Packers in London. I think it's an 8:30 start or 8 o'clock start. The over/under is 41.5, and the Packers are favored by 8.5. Both teams are coming off wins last week, and both are 3-1. The Giants are down 2 quarterbacks. They think Jones may go, but they may have to go to potentially go to start Davis Webb as one of their backups. The Packers coming off a hard-fought win over the Pats in overtime, with the offense and looking like really they're on 7 cylinders of an 8-valve engine. They're getting it done, but they just don't look good getting it done. And so, you know, now they have, and interestingly though, they have some very explosive plays. So it's not that they are not explosive when they want to be. It just feels like when all 8 cylinders are going, they're scoring. When they're on 7, they're just sputtering. If Jones plays, I don't know about this line here. However, if this kid Davis Webb, and do you know where he played, Jeff?
Oh yeah, Texas Tech Red Raider.
Texas Tech Red Raider, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So you know, Red Raider quarterbacks scare me. They can tend to put up some points. So
he's a little Mahomes.
Yeah. You never know, right? So, you know, look, the Pack, if Davis goes, the Pack's gonna have to pull out some 2015 Tech footage just to figure out how the guy plays. And you know, it feels like a bait on me. If Jones plays, I might take the Packers, but if Davis plays, I don't know. I feel like it's a trap game. Jeff, where you see this one?
Well, as you saw last week with Green Bay, they haven't done that great against the spread this first part of the season. Normally they're pretty good after week 1. They're still only 50% through 4 weeks. New York's actually done a better job than Green Bay of covering the spread so far this year. And 9.5 is a pretty big spread, not knowing the quarterback situation for New York. I'm probably going to stay away from this game. If I were leaning anywhere, I would lean towards Green Bay because I think Daniel Jones will play but be limited in his running. And if that's the case, that's a big part of their offense.
Yeah. All right, so Jeff and I are staying away from this one. Next up, we have the Steelers traveling to Buffalo to face off against the Bills. The Bills are favored by 2 touchdowns. At least that's what I saw today. Over under is 47.5. The Steelers made a change of quarterback last week to try to spark some offense, and it did, but also gave the football away in key possessions, and the Jets came away with the win. My Jets, I like the Jets. They're don't send me any tickets. I've been on the Jets bandwagon from day one. The Bills fought back to pull one out against the Ravens. The question here is, do the Bills get back to a dominant football this week, like the first 2 weeks, or kind of muddle along like they did in weeks 3 and 4? It feels like 14 is too many to cover unless that rookie continues to put the defense in bad positions, and then that's an easy cover. With the loss of wide receiver of Crowder to an ankle and McKenzie that potentially concussion protocol, I'd watch both of those closely. Seems 14 is too many. I'm staying away here. The over under, I would fade to the over. I think 47.5. I mean, if that quarterback, if the new quarterback comes in, I think what's his name, Pickett. If he throws 2 or 3 picks, puts them in a bad position, the Bills could easily, get to 47 themselves at home. Jeff, do you like any of these here in week 5?
So this is going to be a half unit bet for me. When I looked at the spreadsheet analytics that I do, my point differential is actually Buffalo by 14.4 points. So we are right on with where Vegas has put the line. Now, Buffalo's got a couple wide receiver injuries, but Pittsburgh's also got 3 members of their secondary that's hurt and questionable for this week. So that may negate the wide receiver injuries for Buffalo. Playing at home, trying to bounce back from a couple of less than stellar performances. I'm going to go half unit bet on this game for Buffalo minus 14.
Okay. And I think it's important to pull the trigger on some half bets. If you feel comfortable on it, but you're not quite sure, save your bank for the more sure bets you have, and go with those half bets. Hey, next up, the Browns will host the Chargers after losing a tight one to the Falcons. Man, I got the under last week, but I missed on the winner. I should have picked the Falcons. The Chargers are favored by 3, and they got back on track last week against the Texans. They did it rushing the football, throwing the football. They look great. I like both teams this year. And while the rushing attack of the Browns made me lean toward the under last week for a win, I see this one getting over somehow. I just don't see it being under 47. Jeff, do any of these teams intrigue you this week?
Well, the one thing that stood out to me is that with a offensively limited Cleveland team, we've got Amari Cooper and Njoku, their tight end, both out at least through Wednesday's practice. So they should be limited in Sunday's game. So that tells me the Chargers are going to have a little easier time just focusing on the run. And I did like the way the Chargers bounced back last week. So I'm liking the Chargers this week to give up the 3 points.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's going to, I think the Chargers are one of the best teams in the NFL. They got banged up early, lost their quarterback to a rib injury. I think he played through it, but, lost his full effectiveness.
Yeah, not the same.
Not the same quarterback out there that I think we'll see later on. But I like that Chargers team. I'm not sure I'm going to take them on the points, but I would fade the over. Hey, next up, we have the Vikings hosting Chicago Bears. The Vikings won last week after the Saints kicker hit 2 crossbars at the end. That was tough. That was tough to watch. It just feels like the Saints have, everything going wrong. Injuries and bad kicks and missed blocks and drop passes. And, oh, man, I felt this team was going to really contend, and it doesn't look like they are. The Saints, that is. We're talking about Chicago and the Vikings. The Chicago put up a pedestrian 12 points on the Giants defense. Not impressive there. The Vikings are favored by a touchdown. The over-under is 44. Both teams seem off on offense. The Vikings are putting up 28 points, but I feel like they've got a more powerful offense. They finally got Justin Jefferson going last week. I think he got 10 catches for over 100, which I like to see. I like the Vikings here to finally break 30 points. I see this one going 34-17. So for my first free pick of the week, I got the take over 44 Vikings and Bears. And if you can shop that line, if it comes down, shop it. Jeff, what are your thoughts on this one?
That's exactly where I'm going to think, is that shopping the line. So as I was looking at the point differentials, strength of bet indicators, I would feel comfortable. Well, it actually came out at a 3.8 point spread in favor of the Vikings. I'd feel comfortable at a 4.5. 7.5 has got me a little concerned. If it were to come down below a touchdown, I'd probably jump on this game. But I think I'm going to stay away from this one just because I've not been sold yet on Minnesota. Although this is an early game, and Minnesota, especially Kirk Cousins, plays much better early games versus later or prime time.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I hope that your indicators are indicating that it's going to be a close game, which means if the Vikings score over 28, which they've pretty much been doing every game except for the Eagles, then the Chicago Bears will be right there and they'll clear that 44 for me. All right, next up, we have 2 1-13 teams facing off, with the Detroit Lions traveling to Foxborough to take on the 1-3 Pats. The Pats are favored by 3 here, and the over-under is 46.5. The question is, can the Pats defense hold the Lions offense under 30? Which no one really has this year. If they did, it was right there at the number. The total for the Lions games through the first 4 weeks is 73, 63, 52, and 93 points per game. 46.5 seems like a low number considering the Lions put up points on the Eagles and the Vikings defense, 2 pretty good defensive teams. It seems way too low, almost like a sucker bet for Vegas. Like they know something and we don't. I see the Pats winning, maybe with a new quarterback in New England. I kind of like that kid. He played pretty well against the Packers if Jones is out. But we've also seen Belichick line up in the old T formation, I think last year, and run the ball 1,000 times, right? I mean, wasn't that a game? Wasn't that a game? It was like 9-6 or some crap.
It was, yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think this thing's going over. I don't know, though. I mean, as bad as the Lions defense is, he may line up in a T formation and run the ball for 500 yards and still score more than 46. And then you got to remember, Belichick, he held Goff to 3 points in the Super Bowl when they beat the Rams. And that was what got Goff moved, kind of started the process to move him out of LA, and he came to Detroit. Now I think Goff has very much improved since then, improved his ability to go to one more than one receiver. I think Belichick had picked up on something he had done through that year. But I'm staying away. If I'm going to do anything, I'm going to put a half bet up on the over. Jeff, you like either of these teams?
So this one isn't a very strong strength of bet indicator. We've got a lot of injuries on Detroit's offense, but of course New England has 2 injuries to their top 2 quarterbacks, so that probably even trumps Detroit's injuries. And they're both coming off of disappointingly close losses, so you never know if that's going to have a little bit of a hangover effect. My indicator does have me leaning towards Detroit covering the 3 points that actually go to a 4-point spread. So that's where I am leaning. But if I did anything, it would probably be a half bet for Detroit in this one.
Okay. Just tough to bet against Belichick. I did it last week and almost lost. Had to go to overtime.
Yep.
It's tough. Next up, we have the Seahawks traveling to face the Saints. The Saints are favored by 5.5, and the over-under is 45 and a hook. Man, we called out Geno Smith, and he looked great last week. So can he do it again in New Orleans? It looks like New Orleans is without Winston, or New Orleans was without Winston, Kamara Thomas last week, and lost a close one to the Vikings in London. The Seahawks dominated the Lions defense. I mean, everyone has, but they just flat out dominated. I see New Orleans holding the line at home this week, and the number seems, the number seems a bit high. 5.5 seems too high to me. I think it's going to be closer than that. I think it's possible that we could see the Falcon or not Falcons, the Seahawks get another ATS loss. And the over, to me, I don't know, with the injuries on the New Orleans side, I don't see this thing going over. So there might be some good prop bets here, that you may want to take a look at. I don't really do prop bets, but if you're looking at this game, maybe want to look there instead of unless you may want to go and take the Saints on the money line at home, but that probably gets you 280 minus 280 for something like that. But I wouldn't look too hard at this game unless, Jeff, are you looking at this game?
So I've got two things that have me leaning towards betting this game, but they're in opposite directions. So we've got New Orleans losing their first 4 against the spread. So typically you'd think, okay, Vegas is going to adjust and try and help reverse that trend. But the offense has just been so poor and they're giving up 5.5. I'm like, how did they score more than 17 and they keep Seattle to 12? So from that direction, especially if Geno Smith plays the way he has, I would think that there's no way they've distanced themselves from Seattle that much. I am actually, after looking at this for a while, I'm going to lean towards Seattle covering the points. I don't think they'll win. And I gave this statistic earlier that 89% of the time, the person that wins gets the spread. But in this one, I think I'm going to go Seattle covering the points, but losing.
Yeah, so Jeff, it'd be interesting to take a look at your stats there as the season goes on. Is it later in the season that the point spread gets better as Vegas, kind of adjusts their lines, and they just, because 90% just picking seems pretty high to me. I felt like that was a lower number.
Over the last 2 years, it's been an 80%. The team that wins covers the spread. I mean that, if it's the underdog that wins, obviously they've covered the spread automatically, but still it really comes down to, you just figure out who's going to win the game. And at least 8 out of 10 times, if you're right, you've also covered the spread.
Okay. So we're in an anomaly period right now then.
We're about 10 percentage points higher than what it's been the last few years.
That's interesting. I did not realize those stats. That's good. That's good info. Yeah, that's a tough one then, because I think the Saints do win. This may be one where it's in that 20%. All right, next up, we have the Dolphins traveling to New York to face off against the 2-2 Jets. The Fins are favored by 3, and the over-under is 44.5. The Dolphins lost a tough one to Cincinnati, and the controversy over their quarterback lingers.
Sorry, I'm not sure.
The Jets got back on track with Wilson, and the offense showed some sparks that he brings to the game. Well, I like the Jets. I don't see how they keep up with the Dolphins, whoever's at quarterback this week. I see a track meet in New York, and while this game normally is close in historically terms, I see the Dolphins winning this handily. So my second free pick is take the Dolphins -3. And if you're thinking about the over, I would fade to the over at 44.5. Jeff?
So I'm definitely leaning towards the Dolphins in this one. They've got better weapons. I think their backup quarterback, Bridgewater, is a solid NFL quarterback and a veteran, whereas you've got the rookie going for the Jets. So I'm going for Miami minus the points. The only thing that does make me wonder about the over, I just don't know whether the rookie quarterback for the Jets, Wilson, is going to be able to perform and when he tries to keep up. I think he may turn the ball over a little bit, trying to keep up with Miami. So definitely go with Miami with the spread, and I would lean towards the over, but I'm not as sure on that one.
Yeah, I think Wilson came out last year, so this is his second year, but yeah, he's still kind of green.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so we'll see if I'm hoping he keeps up. I like their coach. I like their where they're at. I don't like them to beat the Dolphins with the kind of weapons the Dolphins have, but I'm hoping they keep it close to the score, gets above that 44.5. But for my second free pick, take the Dolphins -3. Another NFC South division rivalry. We have the 2-2 Falcons, 4-0 ATS facing off at the 2-2 Bucks of Tampa. The Bucks are favored by 9, and the over/under is 48. While 9 seems like a big number to cover for the Bucks, 48 seems way bigger in my opinion. The Bucks defense looked good early, but faded last week to the Chiefs and Mahomes. Mariota's not Mahomes. I like Mariota, but he's not Mahomes. And that team doesn't have the weapons that the Chiefs have. And I don't see getting much past 41 between these two teams if I were going to bet it. Jeff, any thoughts here?
So my betting indicators are pointing towards Atlanta covering the 9.5-point spread because we have seen fairly low numbers from Tampa Bay, and we know Tampa Bay's defense is going to hold Atlanta down. Not to mention the fact that Kyle Pitts was out of practice yesterday, so I'm not even sure if he's going to play. So the only thing that gives me pause actually is the off the field stuff with Brady. I don't know whether the divorce rumors and stuff like that, how it's going to impact him, because sometimes he just comes out and when he's mad or focused, he just has one of those super heroic games and he's got his receivers back. So I'm only going to go a half bet on this one for Tampa Bay just because there's that weird off the field thing going on. But I do see Atlanta keeping this close unless Brady just goes out of his mind.
Yeah, I think I saw that he's got a banged up
Shoulder.
non-throwing hand too. I would definitely take a look at that. I mean, it just feels like the Bucks are just on offense, at least, are just banged up, and their defense just seems like they were in that thing with the Chiefs till late, and so I would fade the under if I'm going to bet it, but I'm not liking this bet. I'm staying away here. Up next, we have the winless Texans, although they do have a tie. I guess you can't call them completely winless, traveling to face off against the Jags. The Jags are favored by 7. The over/under is 44.5. Both teams are coming off decisive losses to two very good teams. Despite their record, the Texans have been in each game, but statistically are poor in many categories. The Jags defense has been the key behind their season so far. And they lead the league in interceptions, and that's pretty impressive. However, the Texans are 18-4 versus the Jags over the last 22 games. Now those are some Texan teams that had, Watson and Hopkins and that crew. This is not the same Texans team, but, sometimes teams have other teams numbered. It doesn't matter who's playing ball for them. So 7 points seems pretty high. Is your internet okay, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm still hearing you. Sorry,
Okay.
I'm still hearing you. Yep.
Okay, yeah, sorry, guys. Our internet's a little fady here in San Antonio. 7 points seems a little high to me for this matchup, but I do like the Jags to get the win. Jeff, any thoughts here?
So I think Vegas is taking the historical record between these two teams into account. Because when I look at this game, my calculation comes out that it would be at about an 11.6 point Jags win. So to have it only 7.5, I think factors in how well Houston has done. But like you said, that was a different Houston team for most of those games. So in this one, I am going to go ahead and go Jacksonville minus the 7.5.
Is this one of your free picks?
No, not a free pick yet.
Okay.
Those are all 3 o'clock games.
Okay. All right, next up, we have the Titans traveling to DC to face off against the Commanders. The Commanders are home dogs at +2, and the over/under is 42.5. The Titans are 2-0 straight up in ATS since the beatdown they took in week 2 against the Bills. They've played pretty good football the last couple of weeks. The Commanders are coming off a road loss to the Cowboys, looking to get back on track. Two grass teams here, both playing on Bermuda, so no effect with the turf changes. I like the Titans here to get it done and go 3-0 straight up in ATS. Fade the over as this one could get pretty defensive. Jeff, any thoughts here?
So Washington did look good in the front four, defensive front four last week against Dallas. So I think for the first few quarters, they're going to be able to contain Derrick Henry. They'll be able to put some pressure on Tannehill, but without being able to score enough to distance yourself, I think by the fourth quarter, Tennessee does finally wear them down with the Derrick Henry run game, and they end up somehow breaking a big play. So I'm going to go ahead and go for Tennessee in this one, and I'm okay giving the 3 points. If it comes down to 2.5, I would be better, but 3 points I'll take.
All right, so two votes up for Tennessee to go 3-2 this season. All right, next up, at 3:00 start, we start off with the Cowboys traveling to LA to face off against the Rams. Boy, the Rams didn't look like the Rams did last week on Monday Night Football. That was a poor performance. They lost that tough game to the rivalries. While the Cowboys handled, their rivalries in Washington, pretty much handled them with ease. The Rams are favored here by 4.5, and the over-under is 43. Rookies, you know that I don't bet the Cowboys because I'm emotionally attached. Jeff, we know you do. Jeff, do you like this one or?
This is going to be one of my free picks. Yes.
All right. What do you got, Jeff?
Well, so I actually would fade Dallas winning this straight up in all my indicators. And to get 4.5 points, I mean, it almost seems like just a sucker bet somehow. I can't understand how. I mean, that's probably 10 points different than I would have predicted based on all my indicators. So this is going to be a free pick on Dallas plus the 4.5 points. The only thing that I would say on the point spread is that I think, given LA having such a poor offensive line, they're gonna try and exploit Dallas's run defense on the corners instead of trying to pass a lot. So you're probably going to get more running from the Rams in this game than you've seen in the last few weeks. Might hold the score down a little bit on them.
So Jeff, just to clarify, you're taking the Cowboys, you're betting against them?
Taking the Cowboys plus the 4.5.
Yeah, so you think they're going to win outright potentially?
I really do think they'll win outright based on all my numbers, but with given 4.5 points, that just seems like a gift to me.
Yeah. It seems, when Vegas gives you a gift, you got to wonder, is it the Trojan horse that they're giving you? There's something inside,
Yep.
Rookies, I don't bet the Cowboys because my heart is with the Cowboys. But Jeff, he says take the Cowboys for a free pick and take the 4.5 points. All right, next up, we have the 49ers traveling to Carolina to face off against the Panthers. The 49ers are favored by 6.5, and the over-under is 39.5. The 49ers are coming off 1 day fewer rest with that Monday night game. 39.5 seems like a very low number in this matchup. I can't bet this game on the spread, as I like home dogs getting more than 6 points, but not this home dog. Would fade the over. Feel like both teams can score 20 here. Not going to touch it. Jeff, you like this game?
I do. It's actually got my highest strength of bet going for San Francisco. The point differential comes in right in line with what I'm thinking. All of the performances against the spread recently, with Carolina, having gone 2-14 at one point and then 9 straight recently, they've done poor against the spread. Even though San Francisco did come off the physical game on Monday with the Rams, I still think they're more physical and more healthy, even than Carolina, with McCaffrey missing practice again Wednesday. So yeah, I'm making a free pick, San Francisco minus the 7.
Oh, is it up to 7 now? I thought my line saw it at 6.5.
I would definitely try, and I haven't placed the hypothetical bet yet. But I would try and get it below 7. I would go for it with 7. That's right on my percentage numbers to probably 7.4 would be okay with me, 7.5.
Okay. All right, you heard it, rookies. Jeff's got a free pick here for 49ers at Carolina -7. Hey, up next, we got the Eagles, the best team in the NFL. I hate to say it, but they are traveling to Arizona to face off at a 3 p.m. game. I think it's a 3:25 start. The Eagles are favored by 5.5. The over-under is 48.5. Both teams look solid last week. The Eagles are the best team in the NFL, and they're hitting on all cylinders. And really, that's the difference. When you look at the Packers and the Eagles, both are great teams, both good offenses. One's hitting on all 8, the other one's hitting on 7 sometimes, and you can see the difference. The Cardinals are holding their own and have 2 games. I think they have 2 more games before they get Hopkins back, which is going to be a game changer for them. Don't count them out. Rookies, they are going to be a good team this year. They're going to end up having with a good record. The Eagles bullied the time of possession last week with their rushing attack. I mean, that's the only way to say it. They just bullied them. 39 minutes to 21. The Cards dominate the fourth quarter last week to get it done against the Panthers. So my recommendation is to take the Eagles on the first half if you like them, as the Cardinals seem to come back late in the fourth, and they tend to finish off and close. So if you're going to take the Eagles, you like the Eagles, I would take them in the first half this week. If you can get them at 3, 2.5, somewhere in that vicinity, I would do that. The Arizona Cardinals seem to be slow starters. Jeff, you like anything here?
So a couple of very good points and segues. One, the first half bet is absolutely dead on. Up until last week, Philadelphia had scored at least 24 points in the first half in all of their games. So they're fast starters. And I do like the Eagles here as my 3rd free pick. I'm glad the NFL and the networks arrange all my free picks right in the 3 o'clock slot. Make it hard for me to monitor them, but yeah, the Philadelphia, they are really on a roll right now, and they're going against an Arizona team that's got a lot of injuries and to the receivers, the tight end, and then they still got Hopkins out for another 2 games. So I think they'll easily be able to, they being Philly, will easily be able to keep Arizona down to a reasonable number, say the 20, low 20s. So only having to give up 5 points is pretty easy for me to pick. Not to mention the fact that Arizona actually does better against the spread when they play on the road than at home. So 3rd free pick, Philadelphia -5.
All right, you heard it. Going with a road or home dog, or going against a home dog there. Take the Eagles minus the 5.5. If you like this bet, you can double it up and take it in the first half and on the overall total. If you are in a state where you can do during in-game betting, this may be a game to take a look at half. And if the Eagles jump out on the Cardinals and that number gets pretty high, you may want to reverse that back, as the Cardinals tend to cover later in the game. All right, next up, we got a division rivalry with the Cincinnati Bengals traveling to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. The Ravens are favored by a field goal, and the over-under is 48.5. Baltimore comes off a tough loss to Buffalo, and the Bengals got it done last week, coming in with additional rest after that Thursday game. 2 and 3 is not where either of these teams thought they would be, but one of them is going to be there unless they tie. I was surprised at the penalties last week on the Ravens. That shocked me. They have been very disciplined all season. They had nine penalties for 70 yards, uncharacteristic. They got Dobbins back, and they ran for 162 yards on a pretty solid Bills defensive unit. The Bengals smothered the Dolphins in the fourth quarter. Now, obviously, you had the hangover from their quarterback getting knocked out, and the very scary situation that was there. So that had to be weighing on the hearts of the Dolphin players. But this leads me to my next free pick, which is take the Ravens -1.5 or -2 in the first half to cover for my second free pick. I like the Ravens in the first half to get it done at home. I don't know that I would take it overall for the game. I like them in the first half. Jeff, you like anything here?
So this is a very low strength of bet statistic for me. I would probably, given my numbers, I would expect it to be within a point, one way or the other. So that would lead me to lean towards Cincinnati, since you're getting a little more than that, 2.5 to 3 for Baltimore, depending on where you go, but that's still a little close for me. So I'm going to stay away from this game.
Okay. Well, my second free pick is a first half game. Take the Ravens -1 point for the first half. I think they get it done, but I would not bet the rest of that game unless you can get an in line or in game bet and you're watching the game and analyzing and see where it's going. All right. Finally, we have another divisional clash with the LA Raiders traveling to Kansas City. For the Monday night game, the over-under is 51, and the Chiefs are favored by a field goal. Both of these teams won convincingly last week. The Raiders bullied the Broncos defense in the fourth quarter, and Jacobs absolutely ran wild while the Chiefs poured it on the Tampa Bay defense. Tampa Bay's defenses looked great, and they didn't look that great against the Chiefs. I like Kansas City despite the TD to cover, but I really like the 51 better. Feel like this will be a track meet, as neither defense was shut down really anybody this season. I mean, Arizona, the Cardinals with no offense put up 21 on the Chiefs in I think week 1 or 2. So my third free pick is take 51 in the over. Jeff, you like anything here?
So I do like Kansas City. Despite the Raiders' record straight up, they do actually have an overall positive point differential versus their opponents. So they've been in their games, obviously kept them close, and then finally won last week. But the point differential isn't anywhere near as high as Kansas City's. And playing at home, I would definitely give up a touchdown if you can get it below the better. But anything within a touchdown, I'm taking Kansas City. So not a free pick, obviously. I used my 3, but I'd take Kansas City -6 to 7.
Okay. All right. So as we wrap up this week, just a couple things to make sure you do. Make sure you're reviewing that injury report. We're bringing these games to you on Thursday. Sometimes more injuries come out, and there are a lot of teams banged up on both sides of the ball right now. And you really got to look at the eaches on those. If you got a team that's down, a nickel back, they got a rookie nickel back in there. That was a 4th round draft pick, and they're going up against a team with a strong nickel, slot receiver. Well, that can be the difference in the games. You got to take a look at those. I like to say from week 4 and 5 on, we start seeing the better organizations win, because as much as we love the individual players, it is the organization that keeps the players on the field in the best condition to compete week in and week out. So, I mean, this is where those great organizations continue to be great. And I'm going to fade them, just like I'm going to fade against, running quarterbacks. I'm going to fade towards organizations that have gotten it done here, because, it takes everyone to keep these players on the field, not just the coaches and the schemes and the players. Jeff, what are your wrap ups for this week?
Injuries are starting to play a big role. Definitely trying to keep an eye on those. And I would agree with you, because of that, you look for the teams that have depth, the teams that historically draft well. So it's obviously a little bit of an opposite spectrum on your 2 things to look for with the Ravens. They've got the running quarterback, which makes you kind of shy away from them, but they are great at drafting and getting good depth across the organization. So they're kind of hard to figure out. But then you get the Rams who don't draft anybody. They give away all their picks. So if they lose a, veteran top line player, they have nobody to come in for them. So you start watching teams like that. If they start piling up injuries, you really got to fade away from them because they just don't have the depth to cover.
Yeah, that Ravens pick is a tough pick for me this week, but there's a couple things about the Ravens that I like. They've played well in the first half, and they've generally been very disciplined with their penalties. I think last week was just a real anomaly. I think it might have been because the Bills had better players, so they got caught, grabbing and tucking. And, there might have been a little home cooking up in Buffalo. You don't know. I think there won't be any home cooking here in Baltimore. The other thing is the Bengals are coming in as a turf team. I didn't mention that, and the Ravens play on Bermuda. And you're right. I am going to fade the running quarterbacks, but I'm not going to fade him this week in the first half because I think he gets it done in the first half. But I would stay away from the overall game because I think, Burrow has shown his ability in this, and the Bengals have shown their ability to bounce back. They almost came back and beat the Cowboys in week 2. And, they won last week pretty convincingly against the Dolphins in that fourth quarter. I think they put up 16 points. So I like the Ravens in the first half on that one. It is going against what I'm thinking, but I'm hoping that pans out. All right,
Well,
Jeff, you got anything else?
They are one of the best drafting teams, if not the best. Their front office is just great at keeping depth on that team. So
They are. The thing that I have against the Ravens is the going for twos and not taking the points. And, I'm an old school guy, man. I am an old school guy. Take points, put it in your defense's hand, walk up to your middle linebacker, look him in the eye and said, don't give him more than a field goal. Well, we can beat him in overtime. You know what I'm saying? I'm that kind of guy. And they are not. Their scheme is a bit different. And while I would like to bet them every week, I'm not going to bet them every week, but I am going to bet them this week. All right, Jeff, what else you got?
That's it for this week, and things should start giving a little more clarity. This is the start of the second quarter of the season, so starting to get a little more current year stats to go by. So I'll start feeling a little better, I think, from here on out.
Yeah, and we are still working through products and website. We know it's not where we want it to be, rookies. We're going to get there. We still have jobs. This is definitely a side hustle. We're going to get there. We're going to do it on our own time.
So I've got to pay the big bucks for those marketing people and web designers.
Yeah, I guess, because we're not getting it done. All right, rookies, that's all we got. Thank y'all. Good luck this week.